also I've been like really in pain for the last week and a half, so I just got over that, so I'm gonna try and get back on a regular uploading schedule. So I am sorry for the brief hiatus, but yeah, so today, obviously I'm gonna be eating some steak and some pasta. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I'm also going to be just kind of like doing my normal schizo ramble that I typically like to do in these videos. So I hope you enjoy that. So oh yeah, that's good. So basically, I did watch a new movie that I think I want to just give a quick review about, and then it'll turn into more of a philosophical discussion after that. So, and also, real quick, I got myself a Coke Zero and a Truly. I bought some Trulies. I got drunk this weekend, and it was a good time. Trulies are pretty easy to get drunk off of, so I just gotta do but I still have a few more, so I'm just gonna be taking it easy these next few days. Slowly get rid of them. But anyways, I'm gonna open this can of Coke real quick. Less editing for later. Anyways, so the movie that I just saw like 2 days ago, an online friend recommended it to me. Some of you may know about this movie, but I didn't know about this movie, and a lot of people didn't know this movie, apparently. And it's very, when you hear the name of the movie, you're like, or you'll see it in the title of the video, you're like, that's kind of ironic. But the movie's called Mr. Nobody. Stars Jared Leto. Got some steak here. A bit more raw than I would like, but tastes pretty good. So, it's called Mr. Nobody. I don't want to spoil it for you, but you can look up. Basically the bio of the movie, and then you realize that the bio, but you look up the Wikipedia or another IMDb description, and the twist that explains the twist of the movie. The twist is explained in that, rather. So basically, there's an old guy. It's the year 2092. And it's a futuristic world where every human is essentially immortal because they have cellular regeneration, that basically no one dies of old age anymore. Which, if that's true, if that ends up being true in this timeline, I hope so, right? But the main character of the show, his name is Nemo Nobody. Old man. And he's the last mortal. He was the last human born in a time where, I guess he was too old to get the cellular regeneration that makes you live for so long. He was born in 1975 or whatever. He's 115 years old. So, because of that, So, because, like, he's just basically, like, he knows he's almost on his deathbed. He's going through the memories from his past. And in the beginning, he's going through multiple different scenarios. And at this point, you're probably going to realize what the twist of the movie is, if, you know. But it's like you realize that he's, like, going through all these different scenarios in his past. And he's switching between, like, if you made this choice, this would happen. And if you made this choice, this would happen. And it's kind of explained as this, like, interdimensional thing where there's multiple realities going on at the same time. I think it's an interesting concept. But the movie, in my opinion, it's so slow. It's so long. And, like, I only recommend it if you want to sit down and watch a movie and you have nothing else to watch. And you want to, like, kind of be mildly entertained throughout the entire movie with some brief moments where there are some good laughs. I'd say watch it. But my official rating of it is probably like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe a 6, solid 6, but because it's not something that's like super great. It's like above, it's kind of mid, honestly. You don't know if, you don't, so maybe a 5 out of 10, because you don't really know, like, it's kind of just bad. It ends up just kind of being, but it leaves you feeling kind of messed up, because the whole point of the movie is, like, they end up explaining, and I guess if you don't want spoilers, but I'm not talking about that, anything that happens, but basically the movie's about the choices you made. You can't go back and change them. So every decision's the right decision. You can't perfectly control your life, because you end up miserable. There are uncontrollable things that happen, and you need to accept that as a part of life. So that, like, what I took from it is, like, so that when you look back on your life, you don't do what Nemo Nobody did. You think about all the good things you did, instead of wishing what would have happened or what could have happened. You're happy about what did happen, you know, because if you're never able to make a choice, then you're never able to become what you need to be, you know. That's my interpretation. Anyone who's seen the movie, let me know, what do you think? Or watch the movie and then come back on this video and let me know. But I'm currently in a position in my life, I don't want to get too into the details until I know what's real. And plus, I want to keep some things private. This is the internet, you know. But I found a compadre, as you would say, a companion. And I'm trying to essentially figure some things out internally, as far as what I want, what I need, what I feel like I want, and what I feel like what I need. If something is I'm coming to realize I've actually come to realize that I've never had to set boundaries before. I've talked about it before, but I have very little romantic experience with women. And I would say close to zero. I mean, I've done some things. We all do some things, right? But in terms of relationship, I have no experience in that. So it's like I'm figuring out like what are true boundaries for me. Does everything that upset me upset, you know? Is everything that is something that is, if something that like upsets me, is it a worthy boundary to set? If it keeps upsetting me, is it worth placing boundaries? It's making me, go back into my past and be like, why am I not comfortable with setting boundaries? That's the dialogue I have in my, that's the monologue that I'm setting in my head. Is this a worthy boundary to set? And I'll tell you that from my past, there are a lot of moments where I tried to establish that something upset me and it just didn't get mentioned or recognized. It got kind of ran over. I felt like it bothered me, but no one cared. I feel like I would try to mention it, but then the time of it didn't feel right anymore, or I would try and brush it off. I had a great childhood. I love my parents, but you also have to keep in mind the fact that I was homeschooled, which does play into it a great deal. Homeschool and raised Christian, but I'm not Christian anymore. So like, there were just a lot of times in my life where I felt that I just made a choice to deal with it. And as I've been thinking about this movie and how I'm going to talk about it, it ties well into what I was just talking about, where I'm realizing that I'm making certain choices. And I'm seeing that there's feelings that are building up, but at the same time, I don't want to make a certain choice because I'm worried about the outcome. And I don't want to set a certain boundary and it's not about anything that's super serious, by the way. If it was, I mean, obviously I'd set the boundary, but it's just things that are irritating or bothering me, and it's not like I'm not trying to, and even the person that I'm speaking about said if there was anything that like did bother me to mention it to them, but this particular person is I'm trying to work out. I do this with everybody, but I'm trying to work out how to mention things in a way that is not going to spark an unnecessary argument. And it is because I'm afraid of like losing that connection, because I haven't had this before. I'm kind of afraid of losing it because these opportunities for me, they don't come by very often. I'm not someone that just has had a bunch of success in this area. But I'm not like getting abused or anything. I'm not a battered house husband. But it's like I'm realizing the way I grew up is heavily influencing the decisions I make. Because if every time, and also because, so everyone else, and this I want to go into a bit of a story. I may have mentioned this before, but I've steered away from this topic. I may have not actually mentioned this before, because I think I steered away from this topic quite a bit. Because I don't like to talk about politics and religion in an ASMR video, but this is like a video where I'm kind of getting into some philosophical thinking, but I'm also kind of talking about what I'm going through, and this is something I've been pondering and all that, right? So was young, probably around, I'm 25 now, so 10 years ago, around 15, I was 15 or 14, somewhere in there. I was, so for context, obviously, I just said I was raised Christian, parents Christian, and so, obviously, I'm in the South, we went to church, did all the fun, all that stuff. I was going to Christian private school at the time, and I just realized, like, during my Old Testament class, I'm like learning about the Bible and different stuff, and the Old Testament's pretty brutal. It was making me think more about religion, and I never thought about if I was a Christian or not, because I assumed I was. Whenever I was asked about it, I was like, yeah. But I never thought about, like, do I believe in God or not? I knew it was good to pray, and I knew, like, the traditions about religion, but I never, like, contemplated if I was one. So, as I grew up, and I became in my teenage years, I started thinking, like, this God guy, he's like, okay with a lot of horrific things happening, and I mean, I don't know the specifics, I'm just saying, like, I'm explaining the mentality. I can't remember the examples, but, like, obviously, multiple genocides. Excuse me, him being okay with, like, slavery in some instances, and just, like, things that are, like, okay within the Bible, that I was just starting to be, I just felt like they were at conflict with what I thought was right, and I was kind of questioning, do I believe this? I just don't know if I believe it. And ever since I was a kid, I did not like prayer. I didn't like saying my prayers at night. I felt like it was uncomfortable. No one talked back. So it felt weird. I talk to myself now, which is ironic, but I know I'm listening, right? Prayer at the table felt awkward. I hated saying prayers out loud. Some of that was public speaking, but the biggest thing that I had a problem with was feeling like there's a special place that I'll go to if I disagree with one thing at all, that I'm going to be sent to a place of eternal torment, right? I just felt like if I have a solid disagreement about this one thing, I'm going to be sent to hell for eternity, because this guy that I can't even see doesn't like how I think. But he created me with free will. And I'm thinking this stuff at like 12, 13. Now, because like I explained, for other reasons I really can't get into, but my house just was no abuse or anything like that, but I just wasn't like able to talk to. I didn't feel comfortable being able to talk about my thoughts and feelings about things with my parents, because my interpretation, and I could be completely wrong, and then maybe like, I don't know what it's like to be a parent. It could be rough, but I'm sure a lot of it is rough, but it's just like, I didn't feel like I was able to have conversations about a lot, or when I asked about stuff, some things were just brushed over, a lot of things were just not really considered that much, or the conversation was deaded, right? So because of that, I relied on the internet. I went on YouTube, I was looking up, videos on it. I was watching a few videos, and I'm like, those are some reasonable, logical arguments, but then I got into watching debates and things like that, and so you're like, and you're probably thinking, what does all this have to do with, like, what you were just talking about? basically, when I came to the, also I'm just rambling because I want this video to be longer, but I eventually came to the conclusion, I'm like, okay, well, I just don't know if I believe any of this stuff. And I built up some solid arguments because I always felt like, having arguments for things is like having arguments instead of feelings. If I can explain my case well, they'll have to understand. I'm thinking this at like 12, 13. I don't get the courage to tell my parents until I'm like 14. Well, I'll explain how that actually happened, but my parents found out. So I go through all that, and I just don't think I believe it. So, there's a friend at the private school. We were friends on Facebook. And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, how do I tell my parents? Or how do I deal with these feelings? Because I feel like I couldn't, I was a bit of a lonely kid. I was kind of like, I wasn't necessarily, I felt ostracized. Maybe I wasn't expressly ostracized as a kid. Certain bullying things would happen. Well, not bullying, but like certain things would happen, make me feel bad and whatever, right? But I just wasn't in an environment that, like, for whatever reason, it could be my personality, but I didn't feel like I could confide in a lot of people, so, not even my own parents, right? So I was talking to this person, she was around in my brother's grade, they were friends, and we would always talk at school, so I figured, hey, she's like my closest friend, I'm gonna kind of talk to her about this and see how I should go about it. She's obviously heavily Christian, so she tells my brother that I'm telling her this, that I'm like, I don't know if I believe in God or not. And I was just kind of, I was in an emotional state. I was just kind of like wrecked about it. I felt super guilty. And my brother, instead of talking to me, goes straight to my parents and tells them like, hey, Ryan's talking to so-and-so, telling him telling him he doesn't believe in God, and like, and I had to tell you guys blah blah blah, and they feel this kind of way. He was making it so much more dramatic than it actually was. Then my mother comes with me, brings the Bible, and starts asking me questions. And I was just telling her like it doesn't make sense. I just was asking her basic questions. And then I just asked her, and then one of the major things I brought up was like, there's some passage, and you could disagree with me on this, but I asked her like, so all sins are equal in God's eyes? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, because that's some kind of passage, I think, or some kind of scripture. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because murder isn't the same as lying. We don't have these, like, in my head, I'm just purely logical, okay? You got that. I'm not saying this to spark an argument in the comment section, but I'm like, so if murder is like the same as like lying, that doesn't make any sense. Why can everything be judged equally? Because we don't even do our laws like that. My mom didn't have an answer, and so she's just like super concerned with me, because like, the whole concern is that they don't want me to go to hell, right? So she does that. Then I talk with my brother. And my brother uses what is essentially the argument that's like, the world's too perfect to just happen. It's the like perfectly designed argument or whatever fallacy. I don't know it at the time. He has a conversation with me, and then I talk with my dad, who had the most reasonable conversation out of all three, where he said, we're a Christian family, and he's like, if you don't believe that, that's cool, but this is what we believe, you have to respect that. And you guys don't have to and you don't have to believe it, but that's what we believe in, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I can respect that. So, we had that conversation, and it felt like a super big deal, but all I was asking for was, not like, kind of like answers, maybe a little comfort, maybe a little understanding. And all I was met with was like what felt like attack and accusations. Like I was like, that felt like the equivalent of me sneaking out of the house. And like I went and did something, but I didn't do it. This was just me reaching out to a friend in comfort. And then I'm being met with like, it wasn't vitriol because it was concern, but it felt vitriolic. Like, you shouldn't even be having those thoughts. Like, how dare you grow up in this house, have those thoughts, share them with someone else. Don't you understand how bad this makes us look? Blah, 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 blah. They didn't say any of that. That's internally how I felt. So then I go from that to having probably about the next 3 years of my life, I'm completely shut off from like explaining anything to anybody. I can deal with all my problems internally. Even now I'm like that. I share things on here because it's ASMR and you guys, I assume that you guys want to hear about stuff and it gives me something to talk about, but I don't. I was talking to this about with a subscriber friend of mine. It's like, I don't want to feel pitied because like, I don't want just like my whole channel to be me talking about my issues and my internal thoughts and like how bad I feel about something, because I don't want to be like a trauma dump ASMR artist. That's not what I said, but that's kind of what I mean. It's like, I just don't want to kind of have all these things where all I'm doing is I'm just talking about my trauma and like all these experiences that I've had, all these negative experiences, all that shit. But I'm just gonna be sharing more and more. But that whole experience plus like 2 or 3 other experiences I may talk about in other videos, but those 2 experiences, or that one experience, is why I feel like if I ever explain how I really feel about something, I'll be met with a level of scrutiny or a reaction that I'm just not gonna know how to deal with. And that's why I feel like boundaries, unless it's like when my feelings are involved, my actual feelings, it feels harder to set those boundaries because I don't want to lose something that I enjoy, because 97% of our interactions are just cool. They're calm. I love them. I love hanging out with this person, and nothing is like, this is all my explanation of my internal feelings, not meant as a criticism of the other person, but I'm just like, how do I deal with these things that I haven't felt? Because I'm trying to learn this person as well, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out, how to either bring things up, or I do this with everyone, like, that I actually like and care about, and like, I have these thoughts and feelings. I get to know what their boundaries are, and I operate based on their boundaries. I don't really operate based off of mine. I interact with people based on what makes them uncomfortable, not what makes me uncomfortable. So, because that's how I've learned how to do these things, how to interact and have relationships, it's truly hard for me to set boundaries because I don't want to set a boundary that ends up, and you're probably thinking, well, if it's a boundary that if it makes you comfortable to have that boundary set, then they need to be able to respect that. The issue is, I don't know if it's a worthy boundary to set that's worth losing that relationship if I set it. It may not make sense. Maybe you guys understand. Maybe you don't. You have to let me know in the comments. I am just deeply struggling with it, and it's kind of like what I'm going through is it was bound to happen at some point, but I'm also, hopefully you guys can understand, I'm a bit emotionally stunted, having not had much experience in this area. With friends, I'm very comfortable being like, I don't like that you just said that, or I can kind of tell them like, hey, what the fuck, I don't really care. Why'd you say it? Can you stop saying that? Can you stop doing that? It takes me a second, but I can. When it comes to like this particular thing, I've never had to do this. And because this is more of an online thing, I feel like there are different boundaries that are worthy and some that aren't. It's a feeling thing, right? I'm just, excuse me, I'm just really trying to figure out if all of this is, if it's too much, if it's not, whatever. So, you know, I talk with other people about it, but maybe you should let me know what I should do in the comment section below. But that's basically where I've been at. I'm struggling how to title this video. I'm probably going to title it as a movie review. Maybe I'll title it with how my little schizo ramble, but I'm gonna probably make another full video of just me talking and whatever. The next video is probably gonna be me talking about anime because I'm almost caught up on Tower of God. So hopefully you guys, I'll have a anime video out for my anime watchers. But I think that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Join my Discord if you want. Become a channel member to support the channel. And thank you to all of my channel members. I've not been very good at uploading, but you guys are still subs, so thank you so much for that. And I'll catch you guys all in the next video, which will hopefully be soon. But catch you guys later. Bye.